I wanted to elaborate on what you mentioned about like motivation, because I do think that is a big factor. And, as you mentioned, like with younger kids, right? I just had a child that came in who we did testing for. And I think, one of the things that the parents really found really useful is it almost feels like we're almost providing a manual, right? Of like how to do it versus for someone with SM, they know how to do it. It's just more that they need those certain skills when the anxiety is so high, but they do have the skill. Like, so as you're saying, individual on the spectrum, they might not have the skill. So a lot of it is how do we teach that skill and then make it very, and replicate that in many different settings. I think that as individuals get older and you're seeing that like lack of motivation, I think what I see a lot is, and you use this analogy a lot in like other podcasts where it's almost like if you think of a swimming pool and like this talking piece is in this, like, is this swimming pool, right? They're like like walking around and like you said, quote unquote, look aloof or like don't really look like anxious at all. But the minute they like, put their foot in the speaking piece, they freeze, right? They shut down. So as individuals get older, and this goes for all teenagers in general, right? Like some kids who are just, or teens that are super avoidant, they might not appear as anxious because they're just not even like dipping their foot in as much. But I think, especially for individuals on the spectrum, they've gone years and years without looking at a manual and without learning how to do something. So it's almost like a child who like really wants to build Legos, but then like someone just gives them a bunch of pieces and they're like, okay, well, like make make the Lego set. And it's like, well, I don't have the steps to do it. And that's a lot of times how these individuals feel in terms of the speaking piece. I don't know how to have a back and forth conversation. They were the passenger in the car their whole life. So I think that that's
Well,
definitely a
explain
huge,
now that you brought up the passenger in the car, we need to explain it because I think there's
yeah. I
listeners
feel like
going,
we
"But what do you
explain it
mean
in
they're
every
the
podcast,
passenger in the
but
car? My 6-year-old isn't going to be driving. What are you talking about?"
yeah, that's true. I feel like I explained this in many podcasts, so shout out to listen to all my other podcasts. But passenger in the car is this component where, let's say you're not actually, but let's say you're just sitting in a car and your child's the passenger and you're driving, right? And you get to a certain location. Let's say you're driving to the smart center, right? So the idea is when you leave the smart center, hypothetically, obviously for a 6-year-old, they're not going to do this, but let's say you're like, okay, well, why don't you drive home or why don't you get back? And it's like, they look at you like, what do you mean? I was looking at my phone, I was looking at my tablet, I was watching a movie while you were driving. Like, I didn't know the direction. So the idea is, as parents, many times we're the driver and our kids are the passenger, even our teenagers. So in our treatment, we try to teach many different ways for them to become that driver.
In
So
their social communication journey.
exactly. So I think that
I
like,
think we need to clarify. I think we have listeners going, "I'm still confused." I
I don't
think
think so, but
okay,
maybe.
well, I don't know. I mean, I know
I
we
don't know
talked.
if that's, I mean, I don't know. I think it's pretty clear, but maybe.
Well, I'm
But yeah,
just
we're
trying
not
to be
physically
clear
talking
as
about driving.
possible because I feel like this is such a subtle thing, but how many listeners listening are going, "Oh my gosh, that's me. I do tell my child what to say, how to say it, and when. I'm constantly saying you need to, you should. I'm constantly telling them where to go, how to go, what to say." And this is not even related to the spectrum. Of course it is, but I'm saying that these are all kids, right? The
Yeah.
key for kids with SM, social communication anxiety in general, because that's our focus, right, is to help them become more of the driver in their social communication journey. And it might be front line, where parents are naturally encouraging front line and handover takeover and giving them these roles and stepping back and helping them become more independent individuals in their life in general. We see too often kids are just kind of the passenger. Their older siblings, their friends are talking for them. And like you said, they don't learn the steps. And for kids with SM, the anxiety piece alone, right, without the autism, when they're comfortable, I'm going to give you an example. I have a 13-year-old, or was working with a 13-year-old, and she had come having been diagnosed with SM. And I clearly saw pretty early on, I guess it was at our intensive, that she really lacked the social know-how. She would say something, she was verbal with some kids, but it was like awkward, right? And she really struggled with the initiation, the elaboration. She just couldn't figure it out. And the mom was incredibly frustrated and she was upset. And that didn't help the child because she felt that anxiety from the parent. Anyway, we recommended, we could clearly see this was an autism case, a level 1 autism, and we recommended the testing, and clearly autism. We had to create what we call roadmaps, SM roadmaps, I call them. So like if somebody was having a couple friends over, right, and she had a couple friends, the mom had worked really hard on that. She had some neighborhood friends she'd known for a long time that cared about her. So they were very accepting of her, but we arranged more get-togethers because as kids age, as we know, many kids that are neurotypical may go on and do their other things, whereas the child on the, that's got either SM alone, like, or autism, they may go separate ways. And kids naturally begin to separate out around those middle school ages. Well, anyway, she really struggled with the kind of the order of events of what to say, when to say it, and how to say it. So what we did is we worked on this get together. She wanted to have this like cookie making get together. And so she invited her friends over. We literally had to map out every aspect of the greeting that friend, suggesting what they're going to do, asking questions. And we did what we call the roadmap, but then we integrated what we call sandwich questions. The greetings at the top, the greeting, goodbye at the bottom, and what could someone ask? What's your answer? What else could you say? We integrated that into these mini social situations within that 2.5 hour event. And let me tell you what a success it was. She wrote out the roadmap. She felt so good about it, increased her confidence. She had a couple friends come. One came at 12:45, one came around 1. So she spread it out because she got overwhelmed. What a success that event was, Dr. Jenna. Like, that mom called me that evening like, oh my God, I couldn't believe my daughter. She became so comfortable. She was excited. She seemed like almost a different kid because she had control.
Mm-hmm.
She knew what to say, when to say, and she was motivated for this. She wanted friends, but she also lacked the know-how. So there was motivation, but she didn't always understand what she was motivated to do because it was hard for her.
Yeah.
But she wanted to make the cookies with these girls she knew. See what I mean?
Right.
But anyway, I'm just sharing examples because listeners love examples, but that roadmap of being the driver in the car. And instead of the mom saying, well, let's do this, do that, do this, do that, which she said to me, gosh, I would have normally have done that because she wouldn't have known what to do. Mm-hmm. So now we're training moms, step back. Let's give Rebecca the chance to write this out. We wrote it out. We had the worksheet. She did it, sent it back to me, loved it. I mean, it was amazing. These are the things we do in therapy. It's not just lower anxiety and voila. Because for kids on the spectrum specifically, the anxiety isn't always the issue. It's not, it's the social piece. It's the social puzzle.